I also like to say I want the player to swing the heaviest hammer.
Yes, I'm glad you had that. I wrote down heaviest hammer, my favorite Steph quote.
The heaviest hammer they can physically swing without losing club head speed, because if they do that, they're going to gain ball speed. That's just momentum and physics.
Yeah.
And so having all of those tools at a fitter's discretion and for a player to experience, it's things that you can tinker with on your own at home. But we do recommend, obviously, that you go and try to go see a Titleist preferred fitter and have that experience first and foremost. And then if you want to play around with it further, we do sell weights, we do sell kits, and you can go and experiment further.
Steph, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to do a little Team Titleist talks today, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We've got some questions, quite a few questions from our Team Titleist community. Some of them are anonymous, and then some brave souls actually put their names on questions. Ooh. So we'll highlight a few of the team.
Shout outs.
Yeah, exactly. Total shout outs. We've there's some definite VIP questions in here, which is always fun. But Steph, before we get jumping in on all of this, I think it'd be really helpful if you would give the group kind of a rundown on your role here, kind of what you do, and kind of why you're here today, because I certainly love having you to join us as often as you can. But you've got such a unique insight heading up our Metalwoods team.
Thanks, Josh. I'm happy to be here. So Stephanie Luttrell, Director of Metalwood Development and Titleist Golf Club R&D. Been with the company for 16 years. The capacity of the role is that our team...
Has it been 16 years, Steph?
I know, 16 years, right?
Wow.
It flies.
This is where I make the joke of like, oh, you started in high school.
Oh.
Great job.
No, it's the capacity of the role is that we look at everything from concept all the way through production for all of our driver, fairway, and hybrid metalwood designs. So what that means is coming up with new technologies, new prototypes, testing and validating those prototypes, manufacturing them, then taking that and refining it down into what do we think makes the cut, right? What's going to allow us to make a better TSR? And so plugging that into next generation driver fairway hybrid designs, working with industrial design, working with our research teams to optimize the performance, maximize speed and distance, and then really taking that into a production environment. So the team does all the design work and then all of the engineering work to support that and all of the testing. So
it sounds like a big team.
It's a decent sized team. We've got, I think, 14 total. Half of that is CAD and then half of that is development. And they fire on all cylinders. They really do a great job. Is there a
favorite part of your job?
I think probably the best part of the job is the fact,
besides podcasting.
Of course, and hanging out with you, the fact that we get to actually see the fruits of our labor perform in the hands of golfers. So we have a lot of passionate golfers on our team. And so the aspect of that, we get to make essentially toys, right? That people get to go and enjoy in their leisure time, and that the best players in the world get to have success with. So working through that and actually seeing the performance shine through on those levels, that's probably the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a chance to bump into you and your team the other day. We were going to start doing some testing of prototypes, and they had just done some field testing, and everybody had big smiles on their face. We're at the Titleist Performance Institute. It's really fun to see products that go from conceptual ideas to working on a computer to working in real life. And I think that that's pretty special.
Yeah, the fact that, they create it, they think it, we go ahead and manufacture it, and then get to seeing it shine. And we get to experience it, enjoy it ourselves.
Very neat. Now, Steph, I mentioned we've got all these questions from the Team Titleist community. There was a bunch of them around this idea of, hey, I play an older driver. I play a 915, a 917, a 913. There's a tremendous amount of love for some of these older products that we've made. But what would you tell someone who's playing a 9 series driver, and why maybe you'd suggest giving a look at a product like TSR?
I think the real keys are that every generation of product that the team works on, we're always making sure that it's measurably better than the last generation. So particularly if you're playing a product that is, 8 years old, we've made significant advancements in that through our understanding of how to maximize the manufacturing process, to make thinner castings, to get more discretionary mass, to put that CG exactly where we want it, to increase stability and inertia, to also the research that we've done in aerodynamics and head shaping. So all of these things are consistent activities that we're learning throughout the years, and we're applying that knowledge base towards it. You look at even within Titleist speed projects, so TS to TSI to TSR, we utilized, certain aspects of center of gravity and the designs to be able to advance TS. But then we took it to the next level with TSI with new face insert designs that necessitated new material selections to maximize that speed and distance. And then going even further into TSR, taking that material to its maximum threshold for durability and performance, and then also integrating new concepts that we learned through our motion capture testing to be able to optimize CG for speed and for distance, and then the aerodynamics as well. So there's been a lot of technology and research that's gone in over the years that I can pretty much guarantee if they go and get fit, they're going to see gains out of TSR over an older generation Titleist product.
Great answer, Steph. That's really good. As you think about, hey, where can we go not only now but in the future? Are there still horizons out there that you and the team think you can crest?
Yeah, I think that's the fun part of the job is obviously there are USGA regulations, right, to what we can do from an equipment and a manufacturing standpoint. They are putting boundary conditions on equipment, but the fun part of our job is kind of how do we poke at those dark corners of that box and how do we continue to push? And with Titleist Metalwoods in particular, we always talk about it as a very balanced design approach. It's not a very sexy way of talking about it, but it's never about just one parameter, but it's about how do we find incremental gains in every area, and you stack those gains up.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of those areas. I'm guessing you're talking about ball speed, launch and spin, off-center ball speed, MOI, retention, stability. What are some of the things that make Titleist metals such strong performers?
Yeah, well, you look first kind of focusing in on our face insert design process, and we have a material scientist in our R&D department, Uday Deshmukh, who's a PhD, and we're constantly going to Uday and saying, okay, Uday, we've designed this face insert. It maximizes performance, can bring us even more speed. Is there a way for us to now make sure that it's going to perform over lifetime usage, right? And so he's always looking at, can I find something that has better strength properties? Can I find something that meets the durability criteria that the engineering team has set forth?
Yeah,
and
I love that he says he's always scouring what's coming off the classification list. There's now declassified, so we can use some of these things that, whether it's NASA or the military applications, really strong, really light, very, ductility, having the ability to help your team unlock more performance.
Right, so that use of materials and thinking strategically about how those materials can be applied to bring more speed, more performance. Obviously, there are USGA restrictions on COR and on CT, but it's about how do we maximize that to be able to deliver more ball speed across the entire face as well as on center where that COR is measured at. That's kind of one element of it. Another element that's unique is the research that we do with our motion capture testing. We're constantly trying to characterize different players and the way that they swing and understand, are there ways to help that player perform even better? So taking that data analysis, being able to refine it and really run analytics on, okay, what does that lead us to in terms of how do you make a better 2 for the 2 type player? How do you make a better 3? And so isolating those.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the motion capture process and what it is, right? So you and I've had a chance to go in the mocap bay, but there's a bunch of people that are listening or watching this right now that have really no idea what we're talking about. So if you could, why don't you help the audience get a sense of what are we testing for and what do we see from a swing and from what a club is really doing?
Yeah, so for those video gamers that are tuning in to, you've probably seen some of this demonstrated through like EA Sports, and we do the process of instrumenting players, instrumenting the golf club as well, and being able to really look at that.
By that, do you mean putting markers on?
Markers.
A little bit like you might see in a CGI type movie where it's like, here's a person who will later be a lizard or a bear or something.
Exactly, or you see the green screen or the way that they're filming in the volume now. So being able to really look at with infrared cameras at very high frame rates, so 36,000 frames per second, you need that type of accuracy and attention as you're looking at the speeds that the golf club head is moving through. So us being able to...
I think that's really important. One of the things that, when we're doing tours and we show people the high-speed cameras we use is helping them understand that, because we've all seen the pictures of insert, a Tour Pro, and it's like, whoa, look at how that shaft is just bent. It almost looks like, like an upside down U. And you're just like, that didn't really happen. It's just that the camera speeds can't keep up with what's going on. So you get to see
Yes.
in real time what's actually happening via our mocap process.
Right. So it helps you to understand different players' golf swings, but it also helps you to understand how that player's golf swing lends itself towards the delivery of the head. And I think what would surprise people most often is that the head actually leads the shaft at impact. And so you see all these images and you see like shaft lag, right? And you think, oh, the head has to be behind, right? But in actuality, just due to the dynamics of the composite and the way that shafts are designed, a lot of times the head is passing the tip at impact. And so you can look at the dynamic conditions of the head, how the shaft is reacting, how it's twisting. You can look at all of those parameters and we can isolate that out into, okay, as we vary center of gravity position, as we vary face angle, as we vary aerodynamics and shape, we can measurably account for that and study it at a very research grade level tool to be able to finitely be able to understand, are we seeing the performance that we expect to see?
You know, Steph, AI is a big buzzword that's out there, and certainly in the engineering space. And we got plenty of questions in here about like, hey, how are we using technology to help us design golf clubs and to find, you know, some of these parameters that you're chasing, or the dark corners, as you said before. Why don't you tell the team a little bit about what are some of the things we do to take advantage of not only, you know, insights like that Uday might have about materials, but about what we can really do from an engineering standpoint.
Right. Analytical tools like artificial intelligence, and we like to refer to it more as like optimization software. It has existed in golf for many years now. And so it's technology that we have consistently leveraged. When you look at the lead time that it takes to actually make a Metalwood head, it's pretty significant. So it's, you know, 60 to 90 days from when you have a design and you send it out until you get those first parts back. Well, you can't iterate by just manually doing that. Oh, we have an idea. Let's go and make that idea. 3 months later, you get the result. You're like, oh man, it failed. You know, it didn't work at all. So really
our launch timelines get really long if we do that stuff.
You have these virtual tools and finite element analysis and optimization tools that we're able to utilize to really assess quickly and iterate quickly on designs. So obviously with the materials that we use, we understand what the limitations are of those materials, and we can design up until limits. And then we can also leverage and look at new technologies. And that's the easiest and quickest way for us to kind of define what are key technologies that we think show some advantage in the virtual world. And then we take that obviously and go and create real physical prototypes and validate that through durability testing, through robot testing, through player testing with our tour players, as well as down to consumer panel testing as well.
Hey, that's my favorite part about this, Steph. We get to hit the stuff.
I know, I call Josh on Fridays. I'm like, you want to come hit some golf balls for me?
Oh yeah, I'm a big believer in that we get to be hands-on as part of this. But I think that's one of the things, obviously you and I aren't always giving the most in-depth feedback, but you spend a ton of time with our tour pros, and whether it's shaping, whether it's feel, and certainly from a performance standpoint, how important is it to be able to have this rich and very deep pyramid of influence approach where we've got from PGA Tour all the way down to like, you know, I look at our counts at US Girls Am and US Boys Am. We've got players at every age and every level succeeding in playing Titleist golf clubs. What's the type of feedback they give to you and your team?
It's a great point in that we're very much plugged into, if you don't see it at the top level of play with performance, you're not likely to see it as you work down into the amateur golfer level. And so us being able to have access and work with JJ Van Wiesenbeck and the PGA Tour players, and then Chloe Robinson and the LPGA Tour players, and being able to go and test. And essentially what we'll normally do is when we have first prototypes, I'll bring them out and I'll understand what is the player currently playing. I'll try to spec out something pretty similar in the prototype. So matching hosel setting with our SureFit hosel system, matching head weight, using our track system, putting center of gravity as close as I can to where they are already at. And then we'll assess and we'll have them hit their gamer driver, give us 3 to 5 benchmark swings, go and then hit, you know, the new prototype and be able to kind of go back and forth. A lot of the things that I'm looking for from them are, you know, obviously we're very keyed into what aesthetically do they like to look at. So you look at some of the face design changes that we've made throughout the Titleist Speed project. A lot of that was leveraged directly off from feedback that we got from Tour. as some drivers have gone stronger lofted, and we've been able to do that with some of our products, but very much true to spec loft of the head, you see that it's not being able to see the face was an issue for a lot of those players.
Too flat.
Exactly. And so this design that we've been able to come up with, being able to lighten those heel and toe regions, really drawing attention to the center of the face, that was directly through correlation of the consumer feedback that we got from the tour, right? And what would look best to them and allowed them to play their best. Obviously, they're the players that are most repeatable. They're more often going to find center face. So, I'm looking at dispersion tendencies. I'm looking at, okay, are they able to hit their stock shots? Are they able to hit all of the shot shapes that they want to? Is there a bias to the head?
Yeah.
And so
spin consistency.
Yes.
This is a big one that we saw with TSR.
Yeah, up and down the face. Do they see the improvements that we've designed into it? And we can go and we can take that data and then, go and analyze it and make sure that we're in line with what we expected the performance to be as well. So they're a great early validation tool for us, and really a key part of our prototype validation and development process.
Steph, under your leadership, we've really broadened our driver lineup and our metals in general to go from, we used to have kind of a 2 model and a 3 model, and now we've got a TSR1 full lineup, we've got TSR2 full lineup, TSR3 full lineup, and TSR4 and a driver. As you look at that, why are we doing that? Maybe not only why are we doing it, but who are we kind of going after with each of those models?
I think in the spirit of what you asked me about before is like, where else can we go with Metalwood designs? Yeah. It's about really trying to understand the avid, dedicated golfer and what their needs are. And all of those products have been born out of us seeing an expressed need in the golfing public. And so us saying, okay, for this 4, we didn't have the 4 in our line for quite a long time, but we recognize that there are those players that need ultra low spin to maximize their distance. Either they're really high speed players that generate a lot of spin, or they're players that cut across it and tend to put more side spin on it or more fade spin. So being able to control that spin helps them to gain and maximize their distance. You look at the opposite end of that, you look at the USGA Distance Insight Survey, and you see that the average distance of the golfing public, I think you and I have talked about this, wasn't it like 210 yards or 250?
212, I think was the exact number, but still, it's just...
And then you compare and benchmark that against the PGA Tour and what you're seeing out there, and there's an extreme kind of disconnect, right? And so understanding that, not everyone in golf is operating at that level, right? So we started to study, how do we bring even more distance for that player? And that's where the 1 category was born out of. We went with an overall 40 gram lighter build configuration. Yeah. So lightweight grip, lightweight shaft, lightweight head configuration.
We added spin.
And also that player generally, because their speed is lower, they need more launch. They need more spin to have stable ball flight.
Yeah, give them that lift.
Right, and so that's a discrete performance target that was missing within our lineup that now exists. So I like to think that...
I like that we started it on driver. The team did such a great job with our
TS1,
first ever TS1, kind of this ultra lightweight product that really matched up for that consumer. And it didn't take long before we got the request for...
Yeah, you guys were knocking on my door saying, can we have fairways and hybrids too?
And it's been so neat to be able to see how those have evolved, and now we've got these 3 very discrete sizes and shapes and performance attributes. And certainly as you get into a hybrid and a fairway, almost all players are looking for that high launch and to be able to get that spin and have it land where they want it to.
Yeah, I think that's been a fun new opportunity for Tom Bennett on our team. He's our principal product manager that does most of our fairway and hybrid spec setting. So being able to look at this and say, okay, I'm going to try to make a 3 that is very iron-like in its performance, right, but has the benefits of being a Metalwood style construction, and then the 2, that all-around playability, and then what truly does that slower swing speed or more moderate swing speed player need out of a hybrid, right? Larger head size, more forgiveness, getting that up in the air, getting more spin on it for stopping power, all those things, and having each of those discrete areas allows us to really focus on making the best product in each of them versus trying to make one that's going to satisfy everyone.
Well, I think one of the things when you look across the Metalwood division that is unique to Titleist is all the adjustability that goes in. How important is that to you and your team as you're starting to look at how are we going to match up for all these different golfers with all these different approaches and types of swings? to give them the ability to really have a very dialed in experience?
I think our fitting tools are an extreme competitive advantage to us. And for those golfers that go through a Titleist fitting or seek us out for it, the adjustability that we have through our hosel system is still, in my opinion, industry leading. The fact that it adjusts loft and lie independently, that's even more important on those turf interaction golf clubs. That's why you see us maintain hosel adjustability like that within our fairways and hybrids, where you've seen throughout the landscape that some have gone away from having hosel adjustability. But we know that lie angle is important, turf interaction is important for those golf clubs, and being able to have that flexibility to dial it in for players is really key. And then other aspects of adjustability that we have, obviously within the 3 products, we have CG, because we know for some players being able to dial in dispersion tendencies or being able to align center of gravity more with your impact location are real keys to unlocking speed, distance, and consistent performance. And then you look at the other attribute is all of the products have head weight adjustability. So as you vary length in the golf club for your build to get that optimal kind of impact and impact efficiency, we can obviously customize head weight and dial that in. I also like to say I want the player to swing the heaviest hammer.
Yes, I'm glad you had that. I wrote down heaviest hammer, my favorite Steph quote.
The heaviest hammer they can physically swing without losing club head speed, because if they do that, they're going to gain ball speed. That's just momentum and physics.
Yeah.
And so having all of those tools at a fitter's discretion and for a player to experience, you know, it's things that you can tinker with on your own at home, but we do recommend obviously that you go and try to go see a Titleist preferred fitter and have that experience first and foremost. And then if you want to play around with it further, we do sell weights, we do sell kits, and you can go and experiment further.
I mean, fitting is really fun when it comes to metals because we have all these different options. Now, one of the things that comes up, and we had a ton of questions on it here, is like, how important is shaft versus how important is head?
You want me to go for that one?
Yeah, no, please. I know the answer. I think you know the answer, but the general public, I think, is in a little different space.
I get that question so many times, and I like to say that the head is the engine and the shaft is the timing mechanism. Really, what's going to drive your performance first and foremost is we have to find the right head model. We have to find the right loft. And by head model, I mean kind of CG. And what fits you best to optimize your launch conditions, dialing in loft from there, utilizing the hosel.
So let's just play this out. If we said, you know, TSR1, that's great for players who've got slow swing speed. TSR2, you hit it all over the club face, right? It's designed to enable you to have those misses across the face. TSR3, adjustable CG, we can dial in where your impact location is, even if it's not always center face, but if you're more towards the toe or more towards the heel. And finally, the 4 model, super low spin. But so you would start with, let's get you into the right model for your conditions.
Exactly.
And then you go loft and
then, yes, absolutely. Trying to optimize your launch and spin. So that loft is the biggest variable that is going to drive that. And so.
And what would you say, you know, so I've seen like, oh, with a shaft, you could change up to 50 or 80 RPMs of spin. What do you get when you change from like a 10 degree to a 9 degree? What do you see there?
You see about, 0.8 degrees of launch and about 250 RPMs of spin.
Yeah, which I don't think there's a shaft in the world that you could get 250 RPMs of spin out of.
You probably can if you go from like an L flex to an X flex.
Yes, fair.
But that's not what you're operating in when you're being fit. Like if you're going in and you're a 150 mile an hour guy, you're going to be hitting an S flex or an X flex, And so that boundary condition, I like to think of the shaft as something that can really help you to find the timing. And so you need something that comes to impact square, and an overall weight can really have an impact on that too. So a lot of the mechanisms of fittings with shafts is what feels best to you, what allows you to deliver the head consistently square. And then also with that overall weight aspect, and is what's the lightest or the heaviest that allows you to deliver that head consistently.
And we talked about length. Because we've got headway adjustability, you also can then go different lengths when it comes to your shaft. And one of the things that I think both you and I do is we tend to go a little bit short, certainly in fairway woods, and in some cases driver, but being able to find the center of the club face more often.
Right, yeah. Sometimes we see that going shorter, you can actually gain speed. It's not the case for all players, which is why it is important to be fit, but being able to consistently impact the ball and raise that club speed to ball speed efficiency level can lead towards better overall distance.
Fantastic. Well, Steph, I mentioned that we had plenty of these anonymous questions. We're nailing those, but we've got some brave souls who really want to get their name out there and ask their specific questions. So we're going to start with our friend Joseph. And he asks, I currently play a 913 D3, but I'm keen on getting a TSR. What type of performance benefits should I expect to see if I upgrade?
All right, versus 913 D3, we've made very significant aerodynamic head shape changes. So he's going to see better club speed out of a TSR3 in particular. And that's where I would recommend him to start, because the launch and spin performance, I think plugging him into that 3 is going to be a great starting point with TSR3.
Boy, can't you just imagine how much fun it would be if you're a fitter and you see a 913 D3 come in?
Oh, you know you're going to win.
Yeah,
you know.
just from a launch, that spin to launch ratio is going to be really interesting.
Right.
And as you mentioned, you're going to have that aero shaping, so you're going to start out with swinging it faster, which is going to give you more ball speed, and then certainly what you've done on the faces from a ball speed perspective.
Yeah, the face performance, the center of gravity, you should see lower spin versus a 913 D3 as well. So you might need to go up in loft for it, perhaps. And going up in loft, you're actually going to have a better spin to launch ratio. You're probably going to see your overall distance increase. And then the improvements in the face and the improvements aerodynamically, I would anticipate they're going to love it and that they're going to find great success with it. So go out and get fit, Joseph.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing, and I mention this to players a lot, when you look at someone who's playing something like a 913, this is a product that's probably over 10 years old. So two things have happened. In 10 years, your team has done just leaps and bounds of difference. And the player is 10 years older.
Yeah.
So you've made changes as a player. So it's just really important, and that's why we emphasize fitting so much. Speaking of some of our older products and kind of this journey we've been on, Dale, another friend of ours, asks, with the well-documented Titleist Speed project, and I think he might be talking about our We Go Farther series, which you star in, will there be a continued focus on speed for the next version of our driver, or will there be a different focus?
I think in drivers, there's always a focus on speed, right?
It's Ricky Bobby. Want to go fast, Steph?
Always. We want to hit it far. We want to mash potatoes, hit bombs, right? And so speed is always a focus on driver design in particular. But there's always give and take. And as we talked about before in balanced design approach, launch conditions can reign supreme in terms of delivering and maximizing distance. So being able to fire on all of those cylinders, looking at head design, looking at materials, looking at construction, looking at CG, and being able to really drive that, those are going to be the keys. And we're going to look at that in our next generation as we move forward from TSR.
Steph, I brought up We Go Farther. It was our first kind of a 30 for 30 type approach.
Docu-series.
A little docu-series. If people haven't seen it, we'll try to include it here in the podcast as well. You're a big part of that, and kind of really one of the key stars of it. Have you been signing any autographs coming out of this?
You crack me up with this. I just want everyone to know there's about 65 people behind that. And so while you asked and tapped me to be a part of that, and I'm very appreciative to represent the team in that way, there's such a broad spectrum from our research engineers to our design engineers to our test technicians. There's so many people that have a hand in what it took to make TS, TSI, and TSR.
Oh, that's really well said.
I'm proud of all of them. It was a lot of fun to get to see the story told in that way, though, to see kind of the magnification of like the work that the team has done and contributed, and also just the impact of that it's had, on our business. So looking at how the confidence level has increased in our PGA Tour staff and how that has really translated down into the amateur ranks. And you look at our counts at the amateur levels now, people aren't being paid to play the product. And the fact that USAM, NC2As were winning Metalwood counts, and that's something...
At really every level, Steph.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing that we're sweeping most categories.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Yep.
And I think, too, and this will pivot us into some other questions, it's not just always with the best players of a certain age or a certain gender. I mean, I look at what's happened at the ANWA, right? And we go from... not having a ton of presence to being number one in every category.
Yeah.
And U.S. girls, right? And U.S. women's AM, and being the number one driver at those events is really cool to see, along with, U.S. boys, USAM, NCAAs. And it wasn't really that long ago where we were, maybe number 2, maybe number 3. We were getting kind of close to number 4 8 to 10 years ago. But your team has created such a great product that for those players who aren't being paid, they strictly want to win. They want to perform their best. Right. They're choosing Titleist. What's it like when you're just out in golf public and you walk by and you see a bunch of Titleist head covers and bags?
Oh, I love that. And, just being able to see the representation grow. And my husband, he used to work in kind of a next generation role. So he was working fitting kind of college and amateur players, and even getting to see like players at that level then earn their PGA Tour cards. Like Joe Highsmith just recently graduated from Korn Ferry Tour up to PGA Tour, and we're like, hey, we watched him when he was a junior and helped him and fit him. So being able to watch the
Team Titleist members are actually going to meet him at our Team Titleist Invitational this year.
That's awesome. So yeah, just to see the transcendence of these junior players up from being children, right? Growing up playing Titleist, or their excitement and engagement to want to try the product. And I think that has really grown from the fact that we've been doing a lot of things right over the past several generations of products, and it's garnered the public interest. And we really appreciate at the R&D level you all telling that story, because it, I think, helps solidify that message to everyone in the world, right? And also helps to be able to kind of create that connection as to, hey, Titleist, I might not have thought of them as a leader in drivers and metalwoods, but man, their counts are really good on the PGA Tour. There's a lot of non-contracted players that are using it. And then you start to look down the pyramid and you see at the amateur ranks how it's continuing to grow and manifest. And it's exciting, and it's been wonderful to just be able to witness kind of those players have success through all levels of the game.
Yeah, well, it's got to be fun too, even just when your friends try the driver and they're just like, gosh, Steph, this thing's so good.
I mean, the funniest is, my club has like a Solheim Cup type event, and so I'm one of the captains for it. And I took a driver count last year, my own unofficial Darrell survey. And
I love this.
And on my team, there's 16 women, and I think I've got half of them now in Titleist drivers. And if you rewind back, 8 years ago when a lot of them didn't really know me, none of them had considered Titleist. And I just recall, like, in the beginning, they're like, well, my husband said I can't play Titleist. I'm not good enough. And I'm like, no, I know what you need. And the fact that they're learning from me and they know me, and that helps create that connection as well. So I like to think within our Metalwood lineup, we have something for everyone. And so if one message comes through from today, it's that. Please go look at the line, go hit everything, go try them all and experience it. And I'm pretty confident you're going to find something that will fit you quite well within the Titleist Metalwood lineup.
That's really well said. You mentioned you play with quite a few ladies at your club. One of the things that comes up frequently, and we've got some questions on here, is why doesn't Titleist make ladies clubs?
Well, the way I always talk about it with the women that I play with is that the club does not know your gender. So it really does not matter if there's a women's specific golf club unless you really want something that's painted a different color, which is how I see it executed for other brands. But what I like to say is, as we talked about already, the most important thing is finding the right head model and getting that loft and that overall build dialed into you. And
exactly. We don't make men's clubs either, or juniors clubs. We make golf clubs.
The fact that we have head weight flexibility, we have CG flexibility, we have the different models. We offer a wide range of shaft options in the L flex, the light flex, the A flex, which is kind of our action or senior flex. And then R flex too for, women that are more at kind of the 130 miles an hour or so. And you see that a lot of that happening at like the high school and college level for those better playing females. Within the lineup, there's so many options. And so I know a lot of the women that I play with, they say, I don't really want anything that's painted pink or painted purple. If I want to put a different grip on it, I can. Being able to know that the performance and the products that we make are exactly what's used on the PGA Tour, on the LPGA Tour, through, those next generation amateur ranks. I think that brings a lot of confidence and credibility to the product and the overall performance. People that are relying on their paychecks are playing Titleist, and they're playing all models.
Really well said. Yeah, it's not a watered down version or something that, sometimes we've heard in the past, this idea of shrink it and pink it. It's just not our philosophy.
No, not at all. And I think that aspect resonates a lot with women that love this game, that are dedicated to the game. They want to play their best. I feel confident that within, our lineup that we've got great options. go schedule a fitter through our Titleist website. You can go and see that. We also sometimes have women-specific fitting days where they have even more options available to the ladies to be fit. So I'm a grassroots representation of that I'm winning them over one by one and
we're
building.
going to be back next year, and I'm going to test to see if we've gone from 8 to 14.
Well, I'm not helping the other team, that's.
Oh, I got it. You've peaked. I understand. Yeah, you only want a half of them. Otherwise, it's not a competitive advantage for you.
Yeah.
Very nice. Steph, the group wants to know, what do you play, and why is it in your bag?
So I kind of live in that. I played collegiately at the University of Michigan many years ago, go Blue, but I'm in that kind of moderate speed player, about 130 mile an hour driver at ball speed. So I'm in the 1 category, which I know some people might go, well, you're decently fast. Why aren't you playing a 2 or 3? Well, just the way that I swing, I hit up on it a lot. And so I don't generate a lot of spin.
Yeah,
so
you are one of the most low spin players that I've seen.
Yeah, so for me, I play a TSR 10 degree. I actually have one of our older featured shaft models in. I've got the old air speeder. I really enjoy that shaft.
Yeah.
I played at a stock length, so
40 gram for that one or 35?
that one I think is a 40 grammer.
Okay.
Yep. And then I have the TSR 15 degree fairway wood, the TSR 20 degree, and that's kind of my 7 wood. And then I have a lot of head covers in my bag. I play TSR.
It's totally fine. We've already had Marnie come on, and he talked all about his 3 iron and his love of.
I love my bouquet
irons.
of head covers.
Yeah.
No utility irons in my bag, but I play TSR 23 and 26, which those products
As hybrids.
Yeah, as my hybrids. And so those products, I told Tom on our team, those have been game changers. They get up so high, they land so soft. They kind of look like little mini fairway woods, and they're so incredible. Got the T150s, and I bent them a little weak because I needed a little bit more loft, but I'm hitting them about 5 yards further. In the Vokies,
Wow.
I've got a 50, a 56, and a 60, and they gap out really well, and love to hit lots of good shots. And then I've got an older kind of Newport mallet for my Scotty Cameron.
Very cool. And which golf ball do you play?
Pro V1X. Yep.
Yeah.
Need all that launch.
Well, I think that's why I asked, because there's so many people out there that still think, oh, Pro V1X is for the really fast swing speed players, and I think it can be great for them. I think it's really more for players who they want to see higher peak height.
Yep.
They need more spin around the greens, and that's where Pro V1X can really deliver.
Yeah, I love that golf ball. I did play Pro V1 for a little while, and I love the feel of Pro V1, but I just couldn't, the launch, it just wasn't stable enough. So I went back to X. I'd played X for a long time, and it's been great.
Steph, what do you say to players that you run into that say, hey, I really love Vokey wedges, or I play a Cameron putter, or I played Titleist irons before, but I've just never played a Titleist driver. How's that go?
I say, why not?
Yeah, please do.
No, and a lot of times the responses back are, I didn't think I could play a Titleist driver, or I've never considered a Titleist driver, or I've always played brand A, B, or C. And I ask them, what they like about the performance of that product. And then I say, well, you should really consider within our line TSR2, because I think based on what you're telling me your performance needs are, I think you're going to find great performance out of that. So a lot of the conversations go that way. I'm naturally inquisitive as an engineer. I ask a lot of questions. And so if I get into those environments, I tend to kind of pivot it back to, well, tell me about what you need out of your driver, what you need out of your fairway, what you need out of your hybrid, and kind of try to self-diagnose. And I obviously still always recommend them to go get fit, but I also let people hit product out of my bag all the time and just experience it. And then you see the surprise, delight, and joy on their face a lot of times when they get something and they're like, wow, I didn't think I could hit a Titleist driver like that. That brings a lot of satisfaction to me to kind of change hearts and minds around Titleist Metalwoods.
Kind of a personal one here, as head of Metalwoods for Titleist, are you ever nervous on the first tee when you're hitting driver, especially in front of people who know what your job is, or is it just you're calm because you've got so much faith in this?
It's funny, I tend to play in a lot of fun tournaments, not a whole lot of serious tournaments. After my college career, I'm like, I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
So I'll play in a lot of member guests, but I've won my club championship a few years, I think. There's Southern California.
You're being quite modest, but we'll let that continue.
There's a Southern California Golf Association, and they have like a championship of club champions, which I went and participated in for the first time last year. I just had never opted into playing in it.
Yeah.
And it was a little, I was like, well, this is real. Kind of like all these women have won their club championships. And I think I played with a woman that had won the USAM in like 1972. She was one of my competitors, and I was paired with her and another woman that had almost won the US Women's Senior Open. I'm like, all right, I'll admit, I still get nervous. And that was, during my college days. I always joked, I wished that golf rounds were 15 holes because I need the first 3 rounds to just get my nerves under
Just those
control.
first couple of warm-ups, yeah.
But it is fun when you hit it well or you pipe the first one off the tee and people go, oh, okay. And I love hitting driver. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so being able to watch people just say, man, I wish I could hit my driver like you do. And I go, well, try it and check it out. So
I also wish I could hit my driver like you do.
Thanks.
Steph is exceptional from ball placement. Your launch conditions you're very well fit. It's fun to see. All right, some other fun ones. What is your favorite food?
Ooh, my favorite food is pierogi.
Wow.
I know, pulling that one out of left field, right?
Yeah, I think you're the only person we've had on the pod that has said that. So if you could, maybe you might want to tell the audience a little bit more about this unique food.
It's a nostalgic thing for me. So if you grow up with like a Slovakian grandmother, which I did, my dad's fully Slovakian. And so my grandmother used to come, my dad was an only child. She used to come up and stay with us for a couple of weeks every year. And literally, she'd just be in the kitchen, handmade egg noodles that are basically filled with cheesy mashed potatoes. So you can think of it as like the Eastern European mac and cheese, almost.
Yeah, kind of like a dumpling version of mac and cheese is how I would
I like to say in every culture, there's some stuffed pasta, and they're all good in my world book.
I love that.
But pierogi, it's a nostalgic thing. I grew up with it. So you basically douse them in butter, and you can pan fry them. What's wrong with all of that? Not the healthiest choice, so I only eat them about once a year, but pretty delicious.
Let's keep it on the non-healthy train here. One of the questions we love to ask our tour pros is favorite breakfast cereal.
I know. Oh, man, I've heard that, I think, with some of your conversations with the tour pros before. So I grew up, I have the type of parents that let me eat every sugary cereal possible, known to man.
Shout out to
Ed
the
and
team.
Karen, yep. And so I would say still my favorite is probably Cinnamon Life. I love Cinnamon Life.
What?
I know.
Steph, your parents give you unlimited options to pick, and you go with a somewhat healthy version?
I don't know if it's healthy. It's got a lot of sugar coating on the outside.
Have you tried, in the Cinnamon Life space, have you tried Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Yes, I grew up eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cookie Crisp.
There you go.
All of it.
See, now we're nailing it. Now we're back to the Mount Rushmore.
If you had to ask me like which one I've eaten the most in my life, it's Cinnamon Life.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Is that the one that they used to say Mikey likes it?
I think so.
I think that was the ad campaign.
Yeah.
Well, Steph likes it as well.
Yeah.
All right. How about favorite movie?
Let's go comedy, because I think each genre, you have a favorite, right?
Yeah.
I cannot watch Bridesmaids without just laughing all the way through. So I'll say Bridesmaids.
Terrific movie.
Yeah.
Yes. My favorite scene is the a lot of puppies being handed out as party favors. I definitely want to go to one of those events where I can get a puppy. Where we need.
Don't
one
we
of
all,
those.
right? Who doesn't want a $3,000 golden retriever?
And we'll get you out of here on this one. As a golfer, a very passionate golfer, I think everyone's got a bucket list of courses that they haven't had a chance to check off yet. What are kind of the ones that are sitting up atop your bucket list?
Ooh, can I just say Augusta?
Yeah, very common answer.
I had the opportunity, I went with you and some other of our colleagues to go to the Masters for the first time ever.
Here's the thing, we didn't play when we were there, Steph.
We did not play.
No.
So it's still on the bucket list.
Yes.
But wow, what an incredible just land, right? To see it, to walk it.
Could you technically qualify for the ANWA? Do you have your amateur status back?
I've never
You
had
never went pro?
Never went
Yeah.
pro. So technically yes, but I don't know if I have that caliber a game since I want to play 15-hole rounds,
Yeah. When they move it to a 15-hole tournament, you're in. You're ready.
Give me those 3 buffer holes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice if we could just throw out our 3 worst scores on the 18 holes?
I kind of do most of the time. That's why my handicap's a little vanity pleasing.
Yeah, no, I've had the opportunity to play some amazing golf courses. So I played the old course at St. Andrews. I've played all the courses at Bandon. I've played Oakmont and Oakland Hills, and traveled and played a lot of really amazing Pinehurst #2.
Yeah.
So I would say, Augusta obviously would be top of the list. I love all Alistair McKenzie golf courses. My university golf course was an Alistair course, and so getting
Have
any
you done Cypress?
I have not played Cypress yet, so I would
maybe
say
maybe that comes in #2.
that might come in #2. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
MPCC, right?
Yeah.
That could be on there.
Two great courses there, and even the Mike Strantz, redo of the shore course looks pretty incredible.
I know. I haven't played up there. I did get to play Pebble and Spy and Spanish. That was a fun little golf trip too. So.
You know who's not going to love hearing this? Marnie. You've pretty much named as courses you've played all of his bucket list. Yeah.
Well, just another thing that we can be competitive about.
I love it. I think that's one of the things that makes our team so unique. We've got this great R&D engine where everybody loves what they do. They love focusing on everything, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah, we root for each other. We're battling for each position in the player's bag, right? I want that hybrid. He wants that utility iron.
Yeah.
We always say Kevin's coming in from the wedge side, and I'm coming in from the Metalwood side, and we're just trying to, obviously put the best products out there to allow players maximum choice.
Excellent. Well, Steph, thank you so much for all your time. Thanks for answering all these great questions. And we look forward to seeing you on a golf course very soon.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate the time.